Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel Master Mariner Amit Sangwan. In this video, we will see what is the correct procedure for entering an enclosed space. There are many spaces on the ship which are enclosed or also known as confined spaces. Basically, these are the spaces which are all the time kept closed, where there is no natural means of ventilation. All the doors, windows, portholes to this space are kept closed, and the risks associated with the space is that the space may be lacking oxygen. There may not be sufficient oxygen inside the space. So if a person enters into the space, he may not be able to breathe properly. Suffocation may happen. Apart from that, if there are any chemicals kept, then there may be dangerous or toxic fumes because of that chemical. Or if it is a cargo space where there is cargo loaded inside previously or at present also, there may be flammable vapors or other cargo vapors, other gases like H2S, hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, benzene, and various other gases which are very dangerous for human beings, or for that matter, for all the living beings. Now, if anybody enters into this space without taking proper precautions, then the person may fall unconscious, or there may be health hazards, or he may lose his life also. So we have to take a lot of precautions before entering into that particular enclosed space. On board your ship, you will find that a list is made of all the spaces which are enclosed. This list is posted in a conspicuous location, maybe outside your cargo control room, inside your engine control room, on the bridge, and in the alleyway, where everybody can go through this list. So whenever you go on the ship for the first time, go through this list. See what are spaces on this ship, on your particular ship, are enclosed spaces. Apart from that, what I suggest is whenever you go inside any compartment for work for the first time, when you go on the ship, when you are entering into that compartment for the first time, always stand in front of the door of that compartment and read what is written outside that compartment. Never enter into any space without informing your superiors, without informing your safety officer. Okay, so let's imagine now that you have to enter one enclosed space. And for taking the example of an enclosed space, we'll take that we're going to enter one port water ballast tank. Okay, so we'll take the example of one port water ballast tank. We're going to enter into this space. Before you enter into an enclosed space, make sure a proper risk assessment is carried out. The risk assessment is to be carried out on a company specific form, which is provided to you on board your ship. And it has to be carried out by the person who is entering into that space, by the team leader, and the person who is responsible for the safety. And all the points and risk have to be covered. And a person can enter into that space only when the risk is within acceptable limits as per the risk matrix of your company. Now, so we have imagined here that we are going to enter into one port water ballast tank. So what are precautions we are going to take? First is, let's say you have already carried out your risk assessment, your checklist is completed, and now you have to fill the permit. When filling up the permit, always sit with your safety officer or the person or the officer who is responsible for this operation, and together with them fill up this permit. You have also to be a part of this permit, because ultimately it is you who is going to enter into that space. It is your safety, it is your life, plus the life of your colleagues who are going to enter into that space. So this is a generic example of the permit, what we are going to use, entry to enclosed spaces. Your ship may have a company specific form which you have to follow. Okay, so first is, here is you have to write the name of your ship. Okay, so whatever is the name of your ship, let's say it is motor vessel ABC or motor tanker ABC, then the permit number, this is the sequential number of that particular year. This is 2021. So let's imagine this is the first time you're going to make an entry. So this becomes your permit 01 of 2021. Location, name of the space of the tank, we have taken it as one port water ballast tank. So you fill up it here. Normally this permit has to be filled in hand by a pen. it is not supposed to be typed on a computer screen because copy paste may happen. So that is the reason why every time you're going to make an entry, you're going to take a fresh printout and you're going to fill up it by hand. Then the reason for entry, you can say for the purpose of inspection or for cleaning or whatever it is. For this purpose, we will write, let's say, regular annual inspection of this water ballast tank. So regular annual inspection. And the permit validity is that the maximum period of validity of this permit is 12 hours, which is subject to regular atmosphere checks. And for tankers that use nitrogen as inerting medium, then the maximum permit validity is 8 hours. The next is, it says the permit is valid from what date and time to what date and what time. Okay, so we're going to write here, let's say the date, whatever is the date on that particular day. Let's imagine it's 01 January 2021, or any date, whatever is the present date. And date time is, you're going to take time from morning 0800 hours and to, let's say you're going to use it for within 12 hours, you should be able to complete it. We can take it 8 hours or any number of hours, but it has to be less than 12 hours. So we can take it as 2000. Or you can write, if it is going to the next date, then date from to date 2. Then there are certain checks to be carried out prior entry. So space is, you have to write the name of the space here, that it is one port water ballast tank. You can again write it here, one port water ballast tank. It's a space. The first point is space, one port water ballast tank when open and unattended, physical restriction against entry into place. So you have to tick it, say you have to tick your checkbox. Okay, so this is ticked. That when the space will be opened and when there is nobody standing outside this space, that is an attended, then physical restriction has to be put into place that nobody enters into that space accidentally. Okay, so one person has to be at all the times standby outside this space whenever somebody is going inside. That is for two purposes. First is so that nobody accidentally closes that space, and second is that this person can maintain communication with the team which is going inside, and plus at the same time he can maintain communication with the officer of watch on the bridge. So if there is a break in communication or where if there is an accident or something else happens, he can immediately inform the bridge and the rescue team which is on the standby, and a rescue operation can be conducted. Then it says space, then again one port water ballast tank, and it has to be ventilated by mechanical means. So this space does not have natural means of ventilation, plus there may be gases inside, so you have to mechanically ventilate it. That means you have to use a portable fan, portable exhaust fan. It may be air driven, it may be water driven, whatever is available on board the ship. You have to put this fan inside and you have to start ventilation, and this ventilation has to be started well before the entry is made, so that inside this compartment there is sufficient amount of oxygen available. That's about 20.8 to 21% oxygen is available for the team which is going inside for breathing properly. Apart from that, if there are any toxic or dangerous gases, have been removed. Next is space, one port water ballast tank again, and it says has the space been cleaned where necessary. So there may be a cargo tank or something which may be required to be cleaned before you enter into that space. Now, if it is not cleaned, you are not supposed to enter that space. Okay, so you have to click this box yes after carrying out the check. Then is pre-entry atmosphere checks within 30 minutes of proposed entry time of this one port water ballast tank. So you have to tick it here yes, but before ticking it yes, make sure that you are actually carrying out this entry checks and the atmosphere check. Now, these are the common gases which may be present. Apart from that, there may be other gases present also inside this compartment. For that, you have to refer the MSDS of the previous liquid cargo or whatever is being carried into that space. You have to see what all gases were there, and you have to use various equipment what is available on board your ship to find out these gases. Mostly For common gases like oxygen, hydrocarbon, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon monoxide, you have a multi-gas meter, you have an explosive meter, you have a tank scope, you have an oxygen meter. Okay, so that is used. Apart from that, for gases like benzene and other gases like mercaptans or any other gases, you will be provided dragger tubes on board your ship. So you have to use those dragger tubes. These dragger tubes are basically chemical tubes which have a filter inside which is coated with the chemical. When it comes in contact with the particular gas for which it is specified, then the color of this filter inside changes, and with the change in the color you will come to know about the concentration of the gases. On this particular permit, it says that the oxygen has to be greater than 20.8% by volume. So you have to write the whatever is the present volume. So if the present volume is, let's say, 20.8 or 20.9, whatever it is, you have to write it here. If it is less than 20.8, you have to continue ventilation. You cannot enter into that space. And then you have to take this box, yes. Hydrocarbon, that is, it has to be less than 1% by 1% LER, that is lower explosive limit, and you have to write the hydrocarbon limit. It is not to be more than 1% LEL, otherwise you cannot enter. Mostly it has to be 0. This company does not allow anybody to go inside if the hydrocarbon content is more than 1% by LEL. Benzene has to be less than 0.5 ppm. Mostly when you carry out ventilation, it will become 0. So make sure it is 0 before you enter. Hydrogen sulfide has to be less than 2.5 ppm. Okay, so you can write whatever, let's say 1 ppm or whatever is the present concentration of this gas. Ideally, it has to be 0. Carbon monoxide has to be less than 12.5 ppm. You write the present value here, let's say 2 or 5 ppm, whatever it is. Ideally, again, it has to be 0. And any other toxic gases, if they are there, you have to write whatever is the present concentration and whether it is less than 50% of the threshold limit value of that specific gas volume. Okay, so if it is not within these limits, you cannot enter into that space. You have to continue ventilation and you have to get it down to the concentration of these gases to less than this level. Now, this says that benzene content has to be checked in compartments which have recently carried the product which contains the benzene. Okay, the best is to use the MSDS to see what all gases can be present inside this compartment. After the carrying out the checks, these have to be carried out within 30 minutes of proposed entry time. Once you carry out these checks and whether these checks are within control, then only the permit will be signed by the master and the safety officer or the head of department, that is the chief officer on deck, or the second engineer in the engine room. Otherwise, it will not be signed. Next, it says pipelines, valves leading to the enclosed space should be segregated or blanked or isolated. And once it is done, you are going to tick this box, yes. Make sure that all the valves, all the pipelines, and everything leading to this space are closed and blanked. Either they are segregated, closed, or blanked. So accidentally, nobody opens the valve. It may happen that a person is inside and somebody opens a valve. There may be liquid flowing into this tank, water. Since this is one port water ballast tank, most likely water can flow into this tank from some other ballast tank. That can happen maybe if some valve is leaking or accidentally both the valves of both the tanks are being opened. So you have to make sure it is segregated and the tag is put onto the valve that do not operate this valve, man entry in progress. Then electrical power or equipment, whatever is there inside this compartment has to be isolated. No live electrical equipment should be there. Normally inside the ballast tank, there is no such equipment, so that's okay. The cargo or other operations has to be suspended. For carrying out this entry, the cargo or other operation has to be suspended because the number of the crew on board the ship are limited. It may be possible if you're carrying out two critical operations at the same time, something might go wrong. So at one point of time, only one critical operation should take place. So it has to be suspended for the time the entry is made. Officer of the watch has to be advised of this entry. Basically, he is also going to sign this permit. So he should know when the entry is taking place and when the people are there inside this space. If you're carrying out any other works inside this space, such as hot work or working at a height that is aloft or energy isolation, then the additional permits has to be filled up. So let's imagine that we are not going to carry out any other work inside, it is just a regular inspection. So we are going to say no, it is not issued because it is not required. A designated linkman attendant has to be at the entrance in constant attendance. The reason for the same we have discussed earlier. so that he can carry out communication with the people inside and the bridge. He is a link between the people inside and the bridge, officer of watch. Plus, he is constantly checking on that everything is okay, and he is continuously monitoring the atmosphere inside the tank. You can write the name of the person here, whoever it is. It may be an OS, AB, bosun, or whoever it is. You write that name here, name of that person. Specifically, apart from the rank, you have to actually write the name of the person, so it is very clearly mentioned that this person is going to be there. Then the report interval has to be carried out. Frequency has to be decided. Normally, it should be taken as 10 to 15 minutes, not more than that. So 10 minutes has to be agreed, and all the people are going inside, and the linkman has to be made aware of it. So that has been agreed. Entry kit lockout tagout has to be posted there. It has to be used all the places, all the valves, all the live pipelines, all the tank doom from where the main entry is going to be made. It has to be put in place. That place is tagged out, not to be used without the permission of the responsible officer. Atmosphere checks have to be carried out every 30 minutes. That a portable equipment is already at all the times kept standby on the entrance into that space. The linkman has to continuously check the gases inside. Apart from that, the team which is going to go inside this space is also going to carry manual portable gas meters, pocket meters. They are going to put it outside their pocket or carry it on their body and continuously monitor this space. Lighting has to be adequate. Normally, pneumatically operated lights are put into this space. Apart from that, hand torches are also carried by the team which is going inside, so sufficient light is available inside. Equipment has to be in good working order, and the equipment is all the equipment which will be used for the rescue, such as the SCBA set, the tripod, and it is also a good practice that when you go inside, also carry a emergency escape breathing device along with you, or put it at the bottom of the space. So if it is an emergency, if you're not able to breathe properly, you can immediately use this emergency escape breathing device and you can come out of that space. Next to the ventilation, the continuous ventilation has to be carried out of this space until the time the people are there inside this space. Even if they have come out for taking a break, that time also the ventilation has to be continuously there. It should not be stopped. Normally carried out with portable fans, exhaust fans that can be used as exhaust or inlet fans depending upon the drive, which side you are giving the drive. Then routine entry to be completed during daylight hours. So if it is not an emergency, if it is a regular inspection, it has to be carried out during the daylight hours. So sufficient light is available inside also. It is not that pitch dark inside that space. Some of the light will also be coming from the sun. Apart from that, all the openings to this space must be open. So as much as possible, the maximum amount of light enters into that space, maximum ventilation happens. Working in the space is permitted as per your company SMS. It has to be yes. If any point is, say, if it is coming no, then it should not be done. So you say yes. If you are not agreeing to any of these points, this space cannot be entered, work cannot be carried out there. Safety, firefighting, first aid, rescue and resuscitation equipment has to be kept at the entrance, and it has to be available, and you have to check it that it is working efficiently, working fine. ELSA sets or EBD sets has to be available, and this has to be put at the bottom of the space or to be carried out with the team which is going inside, so that they can use it when emergency is there. Now this permit is rendered invalid if the ventilation of this space stops, if any of the conditions noted in the checklist range above the gas checks which we carried out change, or if any onboard emergency situation or emergency alarm is raised during this permit validity. This permit will stand suspended. Everybody has to come out immediately of this space. Gas detection equipment, inclusive of personal gas meters, they have to be calibrated before making this entry. That responsibility is normally with the safety officer. That is the most of the ships, it is the chief officer there. So they have to be calibrated before being used every time. And gas detection equipment, including personal gas monitors, have to be visually inspected and function checked before using it. Next is communication system has to be tested. You can write the channel and the communication what you're going to use. Normally on the ship, it is the walkie-talkie which is being used. So you can write here that it is a walkie-talkie which is going to be used, or a portable handheld UHF or VHF, whatever you are using, walkie-talkie. and whatever channel you are using, let's say channel 01. So you have to write it here, and it has to be tested. Communication check has to be carried out between the team going inside, between the bridge officer of watch and the link man. Apart from that, the rescue team, which is designated as a rescue team on board your ship, has to be made aware that a tank entry is in progress and they may be required at any point of time, so they can stay on standby. Emergency signal has to be agreed so that in case the communication breaks, then that emergency signal can also be used, or whatever emergency signal you are going to use. Let's say you're going to say evacuate, evacuate, evacuate 3 times, or any other signal that you're going to sound the ship's foghorn for 5 times, long blast or something like that. Whatever it is to be agreed. But when you're using the foghorn, make sure there is no other traffic in the area which may confuse them. So emergency signals has been agreed. Emergency evacuation procedures have to be understood by all, that in case somebody falls, somebody gets injured, somebody falls, somebody goes unconscious, or whatever it is there, then what will be the emergency procedures for evacuating those people, and the emergency equipment is always kept there. Appropriate PPE such as torches and personal gas meters have to be issued to the team members which are going inside. Then rescue harness and lifelines where practical has to be worn by the people entering into the tank. Normally in rescue harness will not be required in this particular entry for a ballast tank. Rescue team has to be identified. So this is normally identified in your muster list also, that whoever is your members of the rescue team, they have to be kept on the standby. Then the next section gives the inspection records of the equipment. For example, the most of the equipment, what are we going to use here is the SCBA set. This have to be put on the standby at all the times at the space outside the entrance itself, so that the rescue team can arrive and they can use this SCBS set, and they can go enter inside and they can rescue the people inside. So to carry out the checks, for example, you're going to use 2 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets, whatever you're going to use on board your ship, you have to write your gauge and capacity of the supply. So let's say it is 200 bars. So you're going to write that pressure here. You have to carry out a physical check of this equipment. Function test has to be carried out. You have to make sure that is working fine, and you have to say it is checked, and you have to take it yes. Then the next is a low pressure audible alarm. Whatever at what pressure it is given, normally given at 50 bars. So you have to write that here, and you have to test it, and you have to see that it is working. Then the next is breathing apparatus face mask is tested under positive pressure and not leaking. So you have to take it yes. So the checks of this equipment is carried out. You have to carry out the same check for your set 2, set 3, set 4, set 5, whatever number of sets is provided to you on board your ship. The next is the personal statement that by all the people that the permit checklist section A, B, C, and D, the above sections have been completed and found all in order. Then this is the name of the person or the responsible officer who is going to be inside, responsible officer for this entire operation. So normally, if the chief officer is going to be inside, then it is going to be the master who is going to be the responsible officer. For example, you can write the name of the master here, Captain ABC, or whatever is the name of your captain. Rank is going to be responsible officer, his signature. You have to write the date here. So whatever is the date, you can put the date here, and then you're going to write the time. So if the permit starts at 0800, that is the time when this responsible officer also signs, and he's going to put his signature here. Then comes the next section where it is to be signed by all the personnel entering into that space and monitoring that space. For example, chief officer is going inside, so his name is to be there, chief officer Mr. XYZ or Mr. ABC, whatever is the name. He is going to be the team leader. He is going to sign here. Then it is going to the officer of the watch. So let's say at 0800, it will be third officer. So third officer, again, whatever is the name, ABC, he is going to write here his name, and he's going to sign here. If the space is inside the engine room, EOW, engineering officer of the watch, has to be signed. Now this is 1 port water ballast tank, so it's on deck. So third officer is going to sign here. The linkman, it can be anybody. Let's say it is the bosun or the pumpman, whoever it is, name of the bosun, rank and name, and he's going to be the linkman and attendant. Then rescue team, whoever it is, let's say second officer is going to be the rescue, is going to be inside he's going to be part of the rescue team. So name of the second officer is going to be in the rescue team. In the rescue team, there is going to be two people always, so it can be one of the ABs also, or any other rank which has been decided. Name of the person and the rank here, and again rescue team. Then it is again the person who will be going inside along with the chief officer. It can be Pumpman, so his name Pumpman ABC, and he will be the person entering inside. And person entering into the space. If any other person is entering into the space, again correction here, name in the spelling, it's Pumpman. Again, any other person, let's say one of the OS or anybody else is going inside, then you're going to write his name also, and he will be also be the person entering into the space. For training purposes, when it is found to be entirely safe, a cadet or any training can be taken inside the space only for the training purpose. Plus, additional precautions have to be taken because this gentleman is not that experienced. He might get injured there. Special permission has to be taken for the company for this person. Otherwise, most of the time, not most of the time, all the times, the trainee should not be taken inside their spaces. Only after carrying out proper risk assessment, taking permission from the company, and only for the purpose of training, they can be taken inside. Otherwise, no. So once this is, everybody has signed this, you agree to this, that I have signed the above in agreement that I have received instruction permission from the master or nominated responsible officer to enter the space, to enter the enclosed space. Checks have been made as per the checklist above. I understand the duties and responsibility of my role. I understand the communication procedure that can be a radio, visual, verbal, audible, rope signal. Phone is not going to be used. It can be hand signal or other. Whatever it is, you're going to take all those. It can be a combination of one or more of them. The next is I understand the emergency and evacuation procedures. The next is I am aware that the space must be vacated immediately in the event of ventilation failure or if atmosphere tests show a change from agreed safe criteria. And the last is I am familiar with the use of the equipment in use. So you have to, when you are signing this permit, basically you are agreeing to all of this. If at any point of time, any situation change, immediately evacuate the space, come out. The last is going to be the authorization, that there has to be a risk assessment or there has to be a job safety analysis, and you have to put the reference for it, for what risk assessment is there. For example, it is 01 of 2021. So you're going to put the reference to here, and you have to say that it is completed, it has been reviewed, and it has been approved. Completed by the team, reviewed by the master, and approved by the master. Sometimes approval may be required by your company also. Next is permit checklist. It has been completed. So yes, it has been completed. The next is toolbox talk to be held on site prior to entry. So this toolbox talk is to be carried out before making an entry by the team leader of what work we are going to do, what are the risks, and everything has to be discussed again. And he has to make sure that equipment and everything is in place and all the crew members agree to everything. The next point is entry to the space. This entry into the space has to be authorized. It has to be authorized by the master. Yes. Okay. The next point is I authorize the entry to the enclosed space above. This is to be done by the, okay. And the next point is that I authorize the entry to the enclosed space listed above. That is the master. You have to write here the name of the master. That is Captain ABC or whatever is the name of the master. His signature is going to be here. The date when it is filled up and when he's signing it has to be here. This is again at the time of when the permit is valid. At the same time, you're going to type it here. Otherwise, this permit will not be valid if it is signed well before the entry permit time or after the time what you've written on top. It is basically, it has to be before the permit validity time. It cannot be signed after the permit validity time. Then you have to ensure that this permit is displayed at the enclosed space entrance. So once you completed this, master has signed, you can enter into that space at the time when the permit starts. And then comes the permit closure. That's at the end of the work when everybody is out. that the work in the enclosed space, this is one port water ballast tank, you write here one port water ballast tank has been completed. So you take it here, yes, it has been completed. Then the next is personnel clear from the enclosed space. So you have to write here personnel clear from the enclosed space. Tools used removed from the enclosed space. So you're going to say yes, tools are removed from the enclosed space. Yes. Then the entry to the space is secured, that after that nobody should be able to go inside this, and it has to be closed and the tags put in place. Then officer of watch has to be informed of the completion of the job. In fact, the officer of watch has to be at all the times kept aware of what is going inside the space. So officer of the watch informed of the completion of the job. The next is permit to enter the enclosed space. One port water ballast tank is completed. So you're going to write here one port water ballast tank entry has been completed. And responsible officer name, so that was the chief officer, or it may be the master if the chief officer is going inside. So anybody of them, so normally the chief officer, he's going to put his name here, ABC, whatever his name. Signature is going to put, and you're going to write the date here whenever it is completed. Let's say it was started on 1, so completed on 1 only. And the time, let's say the time when you complete this is 1200 hours. If the additional comments are there, like method of rescue, what you're going to use, you can use a tripod, you can use a winch, you can use a block and tackle, or any other method what is available to you on board your ship. You can write that also. And this is the permit completed here. But when the permit entry or when the workplace entry is going on at that point of time, this is another section which is for continuous atmosphere checks. That atmosphere requirements for making this entry are that oxygen has to be less than 20.8%, LEL has to be less than 1%, LEL, benzene has to be less than 0.5 ppm, H2S has to be less than 2.5 ppm, carbon monoxide has to be less than 12.5 ppm, and any other gas, if it is there, which is checked with the Traeger tubes, the concentration has to be less than 50% threshold limit value. This is the entry log, what is going to be used during the when the permit is or when the work is in progress. That the activity column is to record all persons in or out of the space, communications, and atmosphere checks. Total in should show total number in tank at any time. Full atmosphere checks are to be made for re-entry after any break in the work. The initial entry checks has to be carried out. This is before the permit is being authorized. So permit started as 0800, so it has to be carried out well in time before that. So let's say it was carried out 0740. Only after checking this, the master can sign this and validate this permit. So you have to write the oxygen content, whatever was inside at that time. LEL was, let's say, 0, benzene was 0, H2S was 0, carbon monoxide was 0. Okay, and the person who has carried out this check has to sign here, put his initials, and any other gas, if it was supposed to be there and you carried out the checks, you're going to write it here. Then initial entry local atmosphere check, that the first entry what you're going to make, so permit started at 00, though, and this has to be only after that. So let's say when you're going to start or you're going to enter at 0805, you're going to make this entry. The next is the person who was going to inside, let's say at 08, where you carried out the checks at 0805, then at 0810, the chief officer, pumpman are going inside. So chief officer, pumpman in, and the gas checks at that time. And you can say here entering or leaving. So this is, you can cut this. So it will be entering at that time. Total persons in are 2, and initials will be put by the person or the linkman. Then let's say at 0900, or before that, you have to carry out gas check every 30 minutes. So the check was carried out 0805. So within 30 minutes, so you can, in fact, the frequency has to be less only. So let's say at 0805, you carried out the check. Then at 0820, you're going to again check the atmosphere. So you're going to write here 0820. This part is to be filled up by the linkman, that atmosphere check. And you're going to write here whatever is the atmosphere at that point of time. It's 20.8. Again, it cannot go less than that, and all other gases has to be less than the figure mentioned here. and you're going to strike both of these. Total person inside is still 2, and this is atmosphere check. Let's say then at 0840 the inspection is completed. You're going to write here chief officer out, chief officer pumpman out, and you're going to say leaving the space, and total inside the space at this point is 0. Then if you're going to make an entry again at 0900, then again before the entry you have to carry out the checks, and you have to see that all the conditions are within acceptable limits, and you're going to carry out so on. The end will be at what time you're closing the permit. Okay, this is how you're going to fill up this part. All right, with this, gentlemen, we have completed this with this enclosed space entry permit and enclosed space entry procedures. In this case, it is for water ballast tank. If you're going to enter into a cargo tank, then it will be more dangerous. It will be more risky, because inside the ballast tank there are normally no toxic vapors, no hydrocarbons, unless and until there is a leakage or a seepage inside this ballast tank from any of the cargo tanks. Otherwise, it is going to be not much of a problem here entering into the ballast tank. If you carry out the ventilation, you can safely make an entry here, but inside a cargo tank, making an entry is more difficult. Your company may require you to have some other tank entry permit checklist also, where you will have to actually clean the tank and gas free the tank, and then you're going to make an entry. In case of a water ballast tank, you don't need to carry out a tank cleaning, or you don't need to carry out gas freeing and all. It is all that you have to just carry out the ventilation to say that there are no gases there and sufficient oxygen is there. Gentlemen, entry into enclosed space is a very critical operation on board the ship, because people have lost life in the past. They have gone inside the space, they did not get sufficient oxygen, they got suffocated, and they were injured inside the space. So make sure that when you have to enter into the space, you enter into the space only after taking all the precautions. I hope this video will be useful for you. It is going to be useful for all the freshers who are going to ship on, or who will be going onto the ship for the first time, or the students who are preparing for any of the exams. And I hope that it will help them. Gentlemen, if you have liked this video, if you find it useful, please share this video with your friends, and subscribe this channel. And thanks for watching the video. Thanks a lot.